whatever that thing is that you have in your head that would be better, you should start moving towards that as soon as you possibly can. You can start to kind of not be so overly concerned about stuff that you currently don't have, like money or whatever it is you're working towards. And then also, I think people are consumed by who they're not. They're consumed by, they're just like not there yet. You know, they want another 100,000 followers on Instagram. They want to be more like this guy or this girl, and they feel that they're deserving of it because they work really hard and put a lot of time into it. And so a lot of their time is occupied by that, which wouldn't even fall into a category of necessarily being like negative or positive. But if you were to think about, if you hired a new CEO of your brain, that's the first thing they would get rid of. They get rid of that department that wastes all that time in that particular area. They'd be like, hey, what the fuck is this department about? Why are we spending so much time here worrying about what we're not and where we're not at yet? So it took, those things took me a while, but those things were also learned by just being humbled, by just being smacked around and having my ass kicked by life and by people. You know, when I played football, I went to Santa Monica City College and I played with Steve Smith and Chad Ochocinco. And I recognized, wow, like you thought you were pretty good at football, but I mean, these are guys that move around like I think Steve Smith is in the Hall of Fame. I mean, these are next level human beings. You have no relation to anything that they do except for maybe your mindset, right? Like I don't have any. I could show up here every day and I can work hard. I can put in a lot of work every single time, but anything else they do, especially when it comes to something physically, I don't know how to match any of that. And then professional wrestling and seeing how people can move and seeing how creative people were and seeing the physiques and stuff like that. I'm like, I can work towards all this and yeah, I can figure a lot of this out, but there's some stuff that I'm just simply not as good as some of these people in certain areas. And I was okay with admitting that to a certain degree. And the same thing happened with lifting. I was able to lift well. I was able to lift some heavy stuff, but look at the things people are doing now. You know, I can strive to, I could strive to lift like Ed Cohn, or I could strive to lift like Ray Williams, and I can continue to get better, and I can be inspired and motivated by that, and that's pretty positive. But what I can't do, which I think is can be foolish at times, is to have a lot of worry and concern about it, and to go out of my own lane and to then enter into their lane. And I think what happens is the things that happen on a daily basis, the smaller stresses, they add up a lot faster when you're not where you want to be. You're like, I'm not. For me, especially now, I feel like every day I'm involved with doing stuff that I really love to do. I love doing this podcast. I love hanging out with you guys. I love seeing the people here at work. I love what I do for work. I love who I hang out with on a daily basis. There's really not anything where I'm like, oh, like I gotta go and do that. I mean, every once in a while, like something will come up, like I gotta go to a bank or some shit like that. You know, there's weird shit that pops up, right? But for the most part, I really I enjoy all of it. I'm very interested in all of it.
I have a question on that.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to the person? Because I'm in the same boat as you, and I think Andrew's in the same boat. We love what we do, and we've been loving what we do for quite a while. But for somebody who does have to go to their job, where they have to be around some people that they don't want and don't like to be around, what would your advice be to them to be able to just kind of, because like the advice, I mean, I feel like, okay, well, try to get out of that situation. But it's not always that easy, you know, especially if you're in a job that's like, say, it's making you great money right now, or it's your main option right now, and that's just what you got to do. What would your advice be to them?
You know, I would just say that, 10 years from now, it's going to be 10 years later, no matter how you slice it. Like, so whatever that thing is that you have in your head that would be better, you should start moving towards that as soon as you possibly can within reason. I'm not saying like going and just like quit your job randomly, but the attachment to, a lot of times we're talking about a job, right? And or a relationship, and both things don't make any sense to, like we've talked before about the fallacy of, having
sunken cost theory.
Yeah, the sunken cost theory. Like you had all this time invested. You're thinking, man, I make some pretty good money. Things like benefits and things like having a company car. These are all things that like just they're just holding you down. They're holding you back. You don't need those things. You can buy, I don't know if people are aware of this, but you can buy your own insurance. You can buy your own dental insurance. You can buy your own health insurance. You can have your own car. You don't need to do these things, but these things are there. They exist. So they keep you, these companies, they're just trying to keep you working. They don't care how they got to do it. They just got to keep you working. Like, we just need some fucking bodies around here. And if what you're doing, you're not feeling like reward from, then you should work your way towards finding something that you can get more reward for. It's not always easy. Like, if you love like fishing, like, what are you going to do? Open up like a fishing store? Like, it might be a little complex on how to figure out how to do it, but maybe instead of opening up a fishing store, you take people. Like, I've been out on Lake Tahoe before, and we had a guide that took us out on the boat for the day, and he like fished. He had all the poles and he had all the stuff, and like, how fucking happy that guy was.
Yeah,
he was that guy. Like, I still remember him. Like, that was 4 years ago. Captain Mike. He was all fired up. He was so excited. My kids remember him. We still talk about him. Like, we got to go do that again. That was sick. That guy was so happy. And then people are thinking like, I got this job and it pays me $60K and I got insurance and I got 3 kids. And it's like, that's great. That's cool. But if it's not really working towards anything, like, are you going to have your name on anything? Like, are you working towards anything that can be your own? Because as my dad said, my dad worked for IBM for 19 years, never was late, was a real reliable employee. And when he left after being there for so long, he walked out with this tiny little box. And that tiny little box had his possessions in it. And he recognized he didn't own the stapler. He didn't own the pen. He didn't own the chair. He didn't own the desk. He owned nothing, But luckily for my dad, he already had a side hustle going on. So I think that Gary Vee talks a lot about that. I think that's probably the ticket, is to, as you're working to kind of just keep your life in order, to have enough money for your day to day, you should be working towards a fortune, which is just you working towards your dream, like, job or goal.
Yeah, and bringing up like the situation where somebody just loves fishing. It's like, well, fuck, I can't even spend time away from this or that. It's like, well, maybe start a podcast about fishing. Okay, right. What's the podcast going to do? It's not going to really make you any money. It's not going to do this and that. But what it's going to do is, after you leave the job that you don't like, you're going to have something and you're going to be fired up to go home and do. You're going to be excited for something else. So looking back at when I fucking hated my job, but the second I clocked out, I was focused on photography, and every single day it gave me a reason to get up, get done with, Aubrey Marcus called it smiling through the suck, smile through the sucky job. So that way it can afford me time and money to go invest in myself and into my, photography. And so just having something that you can work on, even if it's something small, but if something of your own that you care about, that will get you up and get you through your day. And that will give you a more positive mindset. Because then somebody at the water cooler starts talking about like, oh, my, grandfather used to go fishing all the time. Like, oh, really? Do you know where? And like, you're now fired up to talk about that one topic. And then now you're the guy at work that knows all about fishing. And, so like, then it becomes part of your like identity almost. And it just, like I said, now that job sucks a little bit less, but also your life sucks way less because, well, it doesn't suck at all, because now you have that one thing that you are working on.
Pat Roger family, how's it going? We talk about sleep all the time on this podcast. That's why we partnered with 8 Sleep mattresses. Now, this mattress is the Tesla of sleep. It's the Tesla of beds. Its technology tracks your heart rate variability. It changes its own temperature based off the way you sleep so that you get better sleep every single night. It is quite literally insane. Check them out. Andrew, how do they get it?
Yes, and before I do that, I wanted to let you guys know that you can actually set the bed to wake you up silently. I know that sounds weird, but actually the bed starts vibrating around your head and it doesn't wake up the entire house household the way my phone used to do back in the day. So now I just kind of have the bed wake me up silently, and it's amazing. You guys got to head over to 8sleep.com/power project. That's EIGHT sleep.com/power project. When you guys go there, you'll see a banner across the top saying that you're going to receive $150 off automatically. So again, that's 8sleep.com/power project to receive $150 off your Pod Pro cover or your Pod Pro cover and mattress combo. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Let's get back to the podcast.
And one thing about what you're mentioning there, let's use the example about starting a fishing podcast. The immediate thought that's going to come to an individual's mind is like, but no one wants to listen to me talk about fishing. That's exactly what we were kind of talking about here. Negative thoughts happen all the time. Does it serve you? Does it serve you towards the goal you're trying to get to? That thought doesn't serve you at all. If anything, it's just stopping you from trying to do something that maybe you think that you want to do. So what you have to do is you need to assess that thought, understand that it's not helpful, it's not serving you. And I know it sounds so simply like, oh, sure. But this ability to assess things from a bird's eye view and just kind of pick them out, right? That will help you a lot in terms of navigating the bullshit that goes on in all of our heads, because there's no one here and no one on earth that doesn't have negative thoughts, right? But if you can figure out a way to assess and move past that, you'll be able to take action on some of the things that you want to do. And if anything, like we've talked about this before, these days in this century, this is the best time and one of the craziest and maybe potentially easiest times to delve into something that actually interests you, because my mom didn't have the option to just go in on something that interested her. The internet wasn't there. She was, she liked engineering to an extent, but there were other things that she would love to do that she would have loved to spend her time doing. But you can do that now. Right? Our parents may have not been able to, but we can do that now. So we have to take advantage of this so that you can live a life that you're truly interested in living.
You want to work on developing a skill set. I think the greatest skill set you could ever have is the one where you work on your interpretation of the things that you hear and the things that you feel and the things that you see. And you do it over and over, and you have to constantly reevaluate it and make sure that you're heading down the right path. Communicate with other people about it. Say, hey, I view stress to be a little bit more like this, or these types of stresses that I feel from running, from doing sprints, from lifting. I categorize them kind of this way. I've been thinking about it more like this, right? Versus, some of the stresses that we have during the day. I think that people literally think that there's not much you can do about those. I think there's things that people think you can't do much about, your mindset, the way you are genetically. Well, my whole family's big, so I'm probably going to be. And it's like, okay, well, there certainly can be some truth to that. We've circled the wagon many times here on the podcast talking about genetics and the different implications of what it can do and what it can't do, but no one truly knows. We don't know how deep or the magnitude of that, but we do know that you can make massive changes. So you maybe don't have to live the rest of your life out weighing 100 pounds more than you should. You might be able, I would say, be very likely that you would be able to lose weight and to figure out ways to control your weight just like anybody else. And maybe maybe it turns out you're not as thin. Maybe it turns out you're, if you were to take an IQ test, maybe it turns out your IQ is not as high as that other person, but it doesn't mean that you can't work on so many other things. What about just remaining positive? What about leaning towards choosing happiness? What about trying to introduce happiness into other people's lives? Like, yesterday I was about to go for a run. We came back from Bodega, and I was, getting ready and putting my shoes on. Quinn's like, hey, you want to play volleyball? I'm like, yep.
Let's go.
So that's what I did. I didn't run yesterday, and that's not anything great. That's just what a parent does. It's just an opportunity right there sitting in front of me. It's something that I wish. It's something I think about it often. I'm like, I wish I could get more time with her so that we get closer, and like these things will just pop up. She'll be like, oh, I want to go to my friend's house. I'm like, okay, I'm giving you a ride. She's like, no, Jake said he can do it. Nope. Nope, I got it. Like, I need, even if no one says anything, I want the 10-minute drive, with my daughter in the car, just so it's there, just so she knows I'm around. But Our interpretation of stress a lot of times, unfortunately, is to like reach for a beer or reach for a drug or reach for, I'm kind of tired, I'm going to have a coffee. It's okay to have that be a reaction here and there, but it shouldn't be your only move. Like, work on having more moves than just that.
Hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel because we continue to bring you peak content on this channel. Obviously, you guys are here. You guys have watched the whole video. So like, comment, subscribe. All right. See you later.